What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today, well, the lovely folks at Square Enix have gone and given me another spoiler for the upcoming Final Fantasy TCG expansion. It's called Emissaries of Light, and pre-releases are going to be the weekend of the 9th and 10th of April. It's going to release properly on April the 15th, and they've gone and made Aerith the buy a box promo, the box topper promo, so yeah. This might be one I have to run towards as fast as I can. The good news is that the spoiler I've got is another character from Final Fantasy VII. It's Chocobo Sam, and I like this, because I have this thing where if I do like a spoiler, I want to get really involved in the character. So one of my previous spoilers was Adele from Final Fantasy Tactics A2, and that made me want to go and play this many-year-old 40-hour DS game, which is not that cheap to pick up nowadays, and that was a little bit awkward. But Final Fantasy VII Remake? Yeah. I literally got that for Christmas. That is next on my to-play list. So, this makes me very happy indeed. According to the Final Fantasy Wiki, he runs Sam's delivery service, transporting goods with Chocobo, which makes sense, and he is a member of the trio of scouts for Don Corneo's nightly bridal audition. So, maybe not the nicest character, maybe the nicest character. Who really knows? The good news is, we have got ourselves a new card. And what we got ourselves here is a 4-cost wind backup, which incidentally will actually fit really nicely with the Adele that we went and spoiled previously, because Adele, of course, is a forward, but if you control 3 or more wind backups, you gain 3,000 power and haste, and if you control 5 or more wind backups, you cannot be chosen by your opponent's summons or abilities. So I do like how these are fitting together rather nicely. What do we do with this backup? Apart from, generate resources. When you enter the field, you may search for a job Chocobo or a card named Chocobo and add it to your hand. And if you pay 1 wind and dull him, you can go and choose a forward to give it 1,000 power. But if it's a job Chocobo or a card named Chocobo, you gain 3,000 power until the end of the turn instead. Sounds pretty good to me. Also, right, for those of you that watch my channel but aren't really into Final Fantasy, if you're watching this, thank you very much. The advice from me is very clear. Even though I don't make as many Final Fantasy videos as I would like, this card game is legitimately great. And if you're thinking, hey, that might be fun, I might get involved in that, you definitely should. The game is absolutely great. I am a genuinely huge fan. So, with all of that borne in mind, how much do we like this card? And I suppose the answer becomes, how much do you like Chocobos? And as a side note, Chocobo GP is just coming out on the Switch, and that game looks good, and the early reviews are also really good, so I think a lot more people might like Chocobos moving forward. Now, the thing is, I look through this, and you can go through a bunch of deck lists, you look at what's being played. There is actually a Chocobo which is seeing a lot of play, and popping up in basically every wind deck list that I can find. That is the summon that came around in Opus 10. Choose a forward you control, 2-cost summon, return it to its owner's hand and draw a card. And there aren't many wind decks around at the moment, it seems, that aren't playing this as one of their summons, and this will let you search it out when you play Chocobo Sam. Clearly that's going to help you with your consistency, help you to find that. What's a little bit interesting to me is that this is not the only way to search for these Chocobo. So you could go and have a look at Izana, for instance, and if I'm pronouncing any of these wrong, please do forgive me. That is the forward that came around way back in Opus 3. When it enters the field, you may search for 1 job Chocobo or card named Chocobo and add it to your hand. So you start combining Izana here with Chocobo Sam, and all of a sudden you might be onto something in terms of just getting a really rather impressive amount of consistency rolling on. Of course, this works very similar to Mana. Again, pronunciations might be rubbish, I apologise. Which is another card that I see popping up in a whole bunch of deck lists, which is a very similar thing, but instead of Chocobo, we're talking ninjas. When you enter the field, you may search for a job ninja forward or card name ninja forward and add it to your hand. Although admittedly that is only forwards, not any Chocobo. One of the things I really like about Chocobo Sam here is that it is any Job Chocobo or any card named Chocobo you can actually go and get. As far as I'm concerned, that is a huge, huge bonus. One of the other ones we see actually seeing a fair amount of play here is, I want to say, Chocolate? That's right, isn't it? Yeah, let's go for that. And that is a 2-cost backup we saw back in Opus 12 that you can dull to place an item counter on her, and then dull to remove 2 item counters to draw a card, only used during your turn and only once per turn. And that's a card that we see popping up quite a bit. So you know what? That could work. And if you're playing these kind of cards, this is going to give you a lot of consistency. This is going to work very nicely. And I am frankly a big fan. The issue becomes, it's a 4-cost backup. And actually, 4-cost backups, I'm not saying nobody ever plays them, and I'm not saying they don't see any play whatsoever. Both of those statements would be erroneous. What I am saying is that they don't see a huge amount of play, and that a lot of the backups we see end up being a bit cheaper. So if you're going to be playing this, you're going to want it, ladies and gentlemen. So, Norstalen from back in Opus 8 is one that we do see seeing a bunch of play. When it enters the field, you can search for a category Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles backup and add it to your hand. Okay. Again, what we're doing is playing an expensive backup, but it's allowing us to go and search out the cards we want. And actually, we will play those cards if they're worth it. The other one we see is Jote. The far more recent one came around in Opus 14. And what we see here is, again, a 4-cost wind backup with an EX burst. When Jote enters the field, you can search for a card named Fran or a card named Myrn and add it to your hand. So once again, we're playing these more expensive backups, but we're getting a bit of consistency in searching out cards as we do so, and that's apparently worth it. So I suppose we end the video pretty much back where we started. The question was then, and remains now, how much do you like Chocobos? How much do you want to play them? If you're playing that Summons and it's a big part of your game and it's going to give you a big advantage, and this is a new backup that's going to help you search it out whenever you need it, that's clearly a big advantage. That's clearly something you're going to be into. If you can start comboing that with Azana for extra consistency, playing some backups that can be searched from this as well, again, that is going to give you huge advantages. If, however, you're not playing any Chocobo, obviously this becomes absolutely pointless. If you want to go full Chocobo, and I know some people do because they're very popular, cute little creatures, this has got to be a must as a backup, right? I think so. But I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about a whole bunch of games, and yes, Final Fantasy is one of them. And do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, and all kinds of fun things. But by far, the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.